We all know that Minnesota Vikings defensive coordinator Brian Flores wants to blitz against this Chicago Bears offense. But knowing that allows new offensive coordinator Thomas Brown to come up with a good plan to counteract the Vikings blitz.
You are Locked On Bears, your daily Chicago Bears podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This is Locked On Bears, and I'm your host, Lauren Cox. I'm here to bring you your daily, in-depth Chicago Bears news and analysis. You can follow me on Twitter at CoxSports1. You can follow the podcast at Locked On Bears on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and the Locked On Bears YouTube channel, where you can keep up with all of our video podcasts as well. Thanks for making Locked On Bears your first listen today. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use our promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. On the show today, we get to know this Minnesota Vikings blitzing defense a little bit better and look at the ways that the Chicago Bears can counteract it. First, we'll get a sense of the ways Brian Flores blitzes, so we have a little bit of a better sense of what to expect on Sunday. And then we'll look at a couple of the different strategies that Bears offensive coordinator Thomas Brown can take in response to those blitzes, and kind of look at the pros and cons of each strategy and how kind of balancing the two ends up being the way to go here over the course of a four-quarter game in the chess match against Brian Flores. Flores' reputation certainly precedes him here. Everyone knows the Vikings blitz. His defenses blitz. They put a bunch of guys at the line of scrimmage. They usually rush a bunch of guys at the line of scrimmage, but it's not the case that they always blitz every play or even blitz heavily every single game. Generally, like on average, week-to-week basis, the Vikings blitz more than anybody else. They have the highest blitz rate in the NFL. They send extra pass rushers, and when they do, they like to send the house quite a bit. But it's not as though Brian Flores is some kind of one-trick pony who every single play is just blitzing 6 pass rushers and leaving 5 guys in man coverage, and you just got to win against cover 0 every single play because that's all they're going to call all game long. That would be easy enough to try and counteract, right? You could just say, okay, well, now I know what they're going to call every time. I can just respond in this way. No, Flores mixes things up and tries to confuse you and tries to make it all look the same, so you can't tell exactly what he's going to do. So it's not as simple as just like, oh, well, let's just have a play in for every blitz, and then when they blitz, we can have answers to blitzes, because it's a little bit more complicated than that. First of all, when you look at how often Brian Flores blitzes, it does vary quite a bit from week to week. So like earlier this season, the Vikings played the Rams, and he blitzed about 60% of the time in that game. I think that was the season high for the blitz rate for his defense. About more than 6 out of 10 plays, more than half of the plays, the Vikings are sending extra pass rushers besides just their defensive line. They're blitzing 5 or more pass rushers to get after the opposing quarterback. But on the other end of the spectrum, if you look at their game against Anthony Richardson and the Colts, they only blitzed on about 17% of the time in that game. So against the Rams, it was 60-6-0, and against the Colts, it was 16-1-6. So that's a huge swing from high to low in terms of how often Brian Flores might blitz in a game. Now, over the course of the season, it's like 38%-ish. I think it kind of fluctuates around 40% really over the course of week to week. When there's more ups and more downs, it brings the average down. But generally, you can kind of round it and say he blitzes about 40% of the time on average. That's still 4 out of 10, almost half of your passing plays he's going to blitz you. And so you have to be ready for that. But you also have to understand that 6 out of 10 plays on average, he's not going to blitz you. So you have to play like regular offense sometimes too, and can't just have all your shields up for the blitz and be ready for before it's got to be the pass rush getting home, right? You got to have answers like, no, but you got to be ready for it when it's going to come. And in particular, Flores has, at least in recent history, dialed up blitzes against the Bears as much as any other team. Last season, in their first game against the Bears, the one in Soldier Field, he blitzed over 60% of the time, 62.5% of the time. And then the second game against the Bears in Minnesota, he blitzed exactly 50% of the time. So it seems like on the spectrum of teams, he wants to blitz the Bears more than he does other teams. Now, maybe some of that was about Justin Fields, and he could take a different approach to Caleb Williams this year. It is a different offensive coordinator and a different offensive system. We'll see exactly what he wants to do. But the idea is that they show you a lot of blitz all the time, and then you have to try and guess and figure out when they are going to bring it, or when the disguise of the blitz is going to make it so that the other pass rushers can get home easily without them actually showing blitz. When they do blitz, then you have to also then quickly identify what the coverage is on the back end behind the blitz, because it's not always just cover zero, man coverage for all five guys, and everyone else is, you just got to win your one-on-one matchup while the blitz is trying to get after the quarterback. In fact, the Vikings in particular have been doing less and less of that style of blitzing, especially this season. They are much more of a zone blitzing team than a man blitzing team. This year, about 86% of the time when they're blitzing, they have a zone coverage behind it. So it's about 14, 15% of the time there's a man coverage behind it. It's a lot of cover 4, a lot of cover 3, and a lot of cover 2. Those are the primary blitz packages where you're going to send pass rushers, but they're going to have guys deep, and they're going to run up and tackle you after you throw the check down, and they're gonna guess that you're not going to get a ton of yards, and those guys who are back deep in zone coverage can just read the quarterback, react to the ball, and fly, as opposed to having to have their backs to the quarterback and be in tight man coverage and follow guys all over the field. Like, they've said, nah, screw that. Let's just sit back in zone. We can pass some guys off. You have fewer guys in zone because you're blitzing, so there can be more space in between the zones, but they kind of trust that the quarterback isn't going to have enough time to properly read, okay, what zone coverage are they in? Okay, based on that coverage, I got to find this receiver running that route to that space of the field, and oh no, I'm sacked because there's a free pass rusher coming after your quarterback, and that's what makes it so difficult to just perfectly game plan for this off. You can't just come in and say, oh, I've got this plan for this defense and how Brian Flores is going to attack you. So that's where it complicates this message for the Bears offense. Okay, how do you attack it then when it's some different coverages behind? You don't know when they're going to blitz. You don't know what they're going to do. You have to give your quarterback options. And the way I see it, when the Vikings are bringing the blitz, you have kind of two choices on most plays. I guess there's more to it, but two main choices. You can either get rid of the ball really quickly and have a quick little check down, a quick little dump off, a hot route, something that Caleb can catch, see blitz, turn, and throw, and the ball is out in 2 seconds, so the blitz never has a chance to get home. Or you can say, all right, you're bringing the blitz, we're going to leave this tight end in the block, and that tight end in the block, and this running back in the block, so we're going to have 8 blockers to pick up all of your blitz, and then our quarterback then has time to find a receiver open down the field. And we'll look at how both of those strategies might work in a game like this, and how Thomas Brown might want to approach this next on Locked On Bears. This episode of Locked On Bears is brought to you by our friends at BetterHelp. BetterHelp provides online therapy that's here to help you be your best self. Especially this time of year is a time of gratitude, and gratitude is a great way to appreciate life and the people in it and the things and experiences you get to do. But sometimes that can be hard. And especially if your mind is just not in the right place for it, like it can kind of be hard to have that sort of appreciation this time of year. And that's where something like therapy can make all the difference. I do therapy online, and it's a really important part of my own personal mental health regimen. And that's why I recommend using BetterHelp. If you've been thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try, because it is entirely online. It's designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Let the gratitude flow with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. Locked On Bears is also brought to you by our friends at Gametime, the best way to get tickets for all of your favorite live events. I have the Gametime app on my phone, and I use it all the time to go to concerts, to go to basketball games, to go to Bears games. They've got tickets for comedy shows, theater events, concerts, sports games of all kinds, all in one place with the best deals you're going to find anywhere else. They do have a price guarantee, a low price guarantee, so that if you find a lower price in the same row somewhere else, they will credit you 110% of the difference. And I also appreciate that they have all-in pricing. You can turn it on where there aren't any added fees at the end of the checkout process, so you know exactly how much you're paying when you pick your seats. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use our promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem that code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime. So to attack Brian Flores' blitzing defense, which might be man, might be zone, they might blitz, they might not. One of the first things you say is, okay, they're going to blitz you. Make sure Caleb Williams has options that he can get rid of the ball quickly too. It felt like too often, especially under Shane Waldron, the Bears would have Caleb Williams dropping back, and you'd have 4 receivers running routes that had vertical stems, right? They go 5, 7, 10 yards upfield before they either turn in or out or back to the quarterback or whatever it's going to be. And while those guys are running upfield, right, he can't get the ball to them while they're running upfield. They're not looking for it. They're in the middle of the route. It's too early in the timing. And so if there's a blitz coming, it disrupts the timing of the play so that now Caleb Williams is flushed out of the pocket because no one was ready when he had to throw the ball. But now that he's been disrupted, he can't throw it to them when they're ready. And then no one's on the same timing, and you don't have anywhere to go, and you end up throwing the ball away or scrambling and taking a sack or whatever it ended up being. So you got to have plays where there's a running back who's bursting out into the flat. There's a tight end underneath. It's a quick slant or a quick out or a quick curl, something that's open in under 2 seconds. Just step, turn, look for ball, like something so that when the ball is snapped to Caleb Williams and he sees a cornerback coming and a safety coming and a linebacker coming, he's got somewhere he can just turn and throw because I know I got to get rid of it because we're not going to be able to pick up all of these blitzers that Brian Flores sent at them. It sounds like a easy enough good strategy, right? Just get the ball into the hands of playmakers and get it out of there quickly, and then you beat the blitz, right? But it's a little bit more complicated than that. Like, yes, I think some of the big advantages here, it makes the job of the offensive line easier. If Caleb Williams is getting rid of the ball in under 2 seconds every time, you don't have to hold up and sustain a block for very long. You just got to make some contact with this blitzer because you know Caleb's going to get rid of it in time so that even if you don't have to block him for 4 seconds, it's okay. He's got options to get rid of the ball more quickly. It's also easier on Caleb Williams, right? It's kind of like see blitz, throw quick. You're not reading as much, you don't need to read the coverage as much there. Like, yes, you need to make sure that the guy you're throwing to is open and isn't, all totally swarmed and you're going to throw an interception or something. But it's much less complicated for the quarterback to just say, blitz, hot route, go, 2 seconds, boom, boom, boom. Nothing to worry about at that point for Caleb. And I think on the other part of this is part of the whole supporting cast you built for Caleb Williams was in this idea of, hey, Caleb, just get the ball into the hands of your playmakers and let them make the plays with the ball after the catch, right? You don't need Caleb to make the superhero throw. You signed DeAndre Swift to be a guy who can use his athletic ability and make guys miss and be faster than players on the field. You traded for DJ Moore. You drafted Rome Odunze. You traded for Keenan Allen to be playmakers so that Caleb Williams doesn't have to do it all, but he can just get it to the receiver and let him do the rest. And getting rid of the ball quickly, make sure that you're getting the ball in the hands of playmakers and saying, hey, this is what we brought you here for. Go make those plays. That all sounds nice. But the problem is, this is generally what the Vikings want you to do. When they're blitzing you, they are hoping that your response will be, okay, throw it quick, throw it short, throw it underneath. A lot of those passes are going to be behind the line of scrimmage. Your average depth of target is going to be really slow, and you're going to be check down Charlie, right? And in some cases, that's great. And sometimes you just need to do that because it's all you can get, and it's better than a sack or an incomplete pass. You might as well dump it off and get 1 or 2 or 3 yards as opposed to 0 yards or potentially a loss on a play like a sack. But the Vikings are very good at being ready for that and attacking downhill and being able to be really aggressive then, because they know, hey, we're blitzing, you're getting rid of it quickly. If you're trying to get rid of the ball quickly, you're not throwing it deep. You're not taking it over the top of us. So we, as the Vikings defense in this case, like, we don't need to play back. We can play up, we can play tight, we can play aggressive, and we can say, hey, you just want to keep throwing it deep? We'll tackle you for 2 yards on first down. We'll tackle you for 2 yards on second down. We'll tackle you for 2 yards on third down, and you got 4th and 4. Go ahead and punt. Like, they're perfectly happy with that. I also think they see it as, okay, you get 3 yards on first down, 4 yards on second down, and 3 yards on third down. That's a first down. Great job. But it took you 3 plays to get it. And so if it takes you 3 plays to get 10 yards and you need to go 70 yards, that means you need 21 plays to get down the field and score. And the Vikings are saying, hey, we bet you that your offense can't execute correctly 21 times in a row to get down the field, that you're not going to have 21 play drives if you're going 3 or 4 yards at a time. You're going to make a mistake somewhere in there. A drop pass, an inaccurate pass, miscommunication, a tipped ball at the line of scrimmage, something, a penalty that's going to back you up, something along the way is going to make sure that you can't just 3 and 4 yard dink and dunk us all the way down the field. We dare you to dink and dunk us all the way down the field, because you're just not going to be able to do it that many times in a row consistently. And even if you were able to do it on one drive, you're not going to do that on every single drive. 15 plays every single time. The defense is too talented to allow that up. And I think one of the other disadvantages here is it does require your playmakers to have to make a guy miss. You're really not going to get more than 3 or 4 of those yards unless you force a missed tackle and get a bunch of yards after the catch. It's a tough way to consistently move the ball on offense. It's not a one-size-fits-all solution to beating the blitz. I think the lesson here is that, yes, sometimes, if not a lot of the time, you're going to need to have quick passing options for Caleb Williams, a sort of a break glass in case of blitz. Here's your fast dump-off option. But you got to have more to it than that. That's not your whole play. You can have 3 or 4 other receivers running routes in addition to having your break glass in case of blitz route, the hot route for him to throw to. And you have to be able to have other options on plays as well. And you can't just dump it off every single time. And sometimes you need to pick up a blitz and get more of a passing game going. So we'll look at the other side of the spectrum that says, okay, sometimes you just want to go into max protection, leave extra guys in the block, pick up the blitz, and try and run a real offense from there. That has its advantages and disadvantages as well. And I think finding a mix of these two approaches is the right strategy for the Bears. We'll look at how the max protection might work there next on Locked On Bears. This episode of Locked On Bears is brought to you by our friends at Bilt Rewards. Bilt Rewards is here to help make your rent payments feel just a little bit more meaningful. I'm a renter, and I don't like the feeling every month when the rent payment comes right out of my account, and it just feels like it's, feeding away to, keep a roof over my head, but, you kind of wish you could do more with it. But with Bilt, you earn points on every rent payment, and you can use those points towards a vacation, towards next month's rent, travel, any kind of getaway, and it's the same rent payment you've been making every single month anyway. You just get the Bilt Rewards on top of it. There's no cost to join Bilt, and as a member, you'll earn those valuable points on your rent and everyday spending, and you can transfer them into whatever expenses you're looking for on Bilt Reward platform. So start earning points on the rent you're already paying by going to joinbilt.com/lockedonnfl. That's join, Join, Bilt, BILT. Joinbilt.com/lockedonnfl. Make sure to use that URL so they know that we sent you. Joinbilt.com/lockedonnfl to start earning points on your rent payments today. You can get away with going to the quick passing to try and slow down the blitz, but that can't be your whole offense. If that's all you're getting in the passing game, the Vikings are going to win. That's what they want you to do. And sometimes you have to give them what they want, and it's better than nothing, but you have to be able to do more than that. And sometimes they're going to blitz, and you got to have a way to block it and pick it up and say, we've stopped the blitz and we're still going to be able to get a passing playoff. And that's where we talk about going to like a max protection type of play, right? Where a lot of times you think of this as a play action play where then the running back stays in the block and you leave a tight end or two. I mean, you could go 7 blockers, 8 blockers, and give enough people up front so that if the Vikings want to rush 8 guys and leave 3 guys back in coverage, all right, I've got 8 blockers here to pick up your 8 guys. Everyone is accounted for. Now you only got 3 guys back in coverage. Good luck staying with our receivers. We're going to find an open guy and Caleb Williams is going to hit him for a big gain. Like that's the idea behind it. I mean, you think about it, it's a way to open up the offense, right? And say, okay, all these quick passes are all checkdowns, they're all short. You need something vertical. You need more yards behind the pass. You need a chunk play or something in there. Block them up and pick it up. It can open up the offense. As a result, then, it'll stress the defense. Because we talked about it, if you keep throwing quick and underneath all the time, the defense can play really downhill, really aggressive, really close to the line of scrimmage because they're saying, you're just getting rid of it in 2 seconds. You can't throw deep in 2 seconds. So we're going to step up and jump on everything in under 2 seconds to stay away from that. The defense, if you can pick up the blitz and take that deep shot, all of a sudden, oh no, we gotta respect these receivers on the back end. We can't just play up and aggressive, and it can then open up more space underneath on future plays. Like it's a much easier path towards, or it's a much more realistic path towards generating explosive offense. Like, yeah, you could check it down to DeAndre Swift, and he can break Xavier McKinney's ankles in the Packer game, for example, and then take off down the sideline. It's a lot harder to get an explosive play out of a ball that's caught behind the line of scrimmage as opposed to a ball that's caught 20 yards downfield past the line of scrimmage. And it also feels like on these kind of max protect, block them up and take a shot type of plays, it's a lot easier than to overcome mistakes, right? When we talked about sort of the dink and dunk strategy, if you get a holding penalty or a false start or a pass interference penalty or something on the offense that backs you up, you're never going to get those 15 yards by throwing it 3 yards at a time. Like if you make a mistake, those block them up, max protect shot plays, you can get those chunk yardage to make up for other mistakes you might have had in the game. You don't have to be as precise every time because all you need to do is hit a couple of those, right? I mean, if you got 1st and 10, all those chunk play attempts are going to give you at least 10 yards. So you got 3 shots then. If you take 3 max protect shots, all you need is 10 yards on one of those 3 plays and you're getting a first down. Like that's the idea. You don't have to hit every single one perfectly to still be able to move the offense down the field because they'll come in such big chunks as opposed to the bite-sized checkdowns moving the ball up and down the field. So you can see where it's like, great, yeah, leave in some extra blockers, pick up the blitz, and let DJ Moore and Rome Odunze and Keenan Allen cook downfield. There's your solution, right? Well, easier said than done. You know, you still, when you leave in extra blockers, that's great, but that assumes that all your blockers are going to block effectively. And we know that has not been the case for the Chicago Bears this season. Like your players still have to hold up in their blocks. Just because you've got a blocker for every pass rusher, or even more blockers than there are pass rushers, say you block 7, they rush 6, you've got an extra guy, you should have good numbers there. You're still going to have blockers in one-on-one matchups that have to sustain in their one-on-one matchups. Because for those routes to develop downfield, Caleb Williams is going to need 3 seconds, 3.5 seconds, whatever it's going to be, instead of the under 2 seconds getting rid of the ball more quickly style of offense. Along with that, when you leave in extra blockers, those extra blockers are tight ends and running backs, not offensive linemen. And we may like Cole Kmet or Roschon Johnson or whoever. We might think, yeah, they're pretty decent blockers for a tight end or for a running back. But the quality of a good blocking tight end is still not as good as the quality of a blocking offensive lineman. And if you're going up against a good pass rusher on the other side, tight ends and running backs don't always hold up in pass protection. They just don't. They miss too. And usually they miss more often than your offensive lineman will. So when you're asking, can you leave tight ends and running backs in the block? That doesn't mean they're going to perfectly pick up their blocker every time too. So you've got like 7 or 8 different guys who all have to do their job close to perfectly to pick up the blitz in order for that play to be successful. And it feels like if any of those 7 or 8 guys, if one of them doesn't block well, the whole play is blown up because Caleb won't have a quick option on the play because all your quick options are blocking. So it's kind of an all or nothing type of game, and there's a lot of variables that all need to be on the same page there. It also means you have fewer receivers actually running routes. So if you have 8 guys blocking, plus the quarterback is 9, That leaves you two more players who are running routes. That's two receivers is all Caleb Williams has to go through. So if that play is well covered, there's only two options for him to go to. There's nothing else. So it's that or nothing on that play. It also does take the running backs and tight ends out of the passing game as well. If you're using them to pass block, then you're not throwing it to Cole Kmet when he's blocking. You're not throwing it to DeAndre Swift when he's blocking. So you're not getting them involved in the passing game in the same way on those plays where you're leaving them in to block. So you can see where it's messy, it's complicated, and it isn't easy. And that's why Brian Flores attacks you the way he does with his defense in that way, because it's not easy to answer for. It's really much more an art than a science when it comes to responding to it, right? Because there's no formula where you say, all right, run max protection shot plays on 40% of your passing plays and run quick hot route option plays to Caleb Williams on 30% of your plays and run the ball on 20% of your plays. And I realize I don't think that adds up to 100%, but you get the point, right? There's not this optimal formula that it's like, this is the right mixture of each that you have to do, but you kind of have to feel it out and get a sense of when you can and can't get away with it. Because the other thing is like, okay, you call the max protect block them up play when they're showing a blitz. So Caleb Williams runs play action, you leave two tight ends in the block, and lo and behold, they didn't blitz on that play. So now you got two tight ends standing there blocking nobody, and you've got only three receivers running routes, and there's seven guys back in coverage, and now nobody's open because you called it when they didn't blitz, and you don't really have an option for your quarterback there. It's messy, and there's not some perfect way to say, Thomas Brown, do this and you will win the game, but we need to see the Bears be smart about mixing those in and giving Caleb Williams a variety of options and knowing when he might be able to detect a blitz and then change the play and, hey, check into a max protect shot here because you're pretty sure this guy's blitzing. All right, then we'll change the play and go to one of those plays. Or you can change the play and go to one of the hot route plays. Give Caleb Williams the option to identify the blitz, make a change, and then respond to that blitz, as opposed to going in blind every play and saying, all right, we'll run the max protect because we'll flip a coin. Are they going to blitz? Yes, all right, we'll run max protect. Or we don't think they're going to blitz this play, so we won't leave in any blockers and we'll just run a regular play. Like, that's the chess match of coaching and calling plays for offensive and defensive coordinators, and why I'm really excited to see how this one plays out with Thomas Brown and Brian Flores. Got to be honest, Flores has the experience factor here and has a really good defense. I think the Vikings will win that coaching matchup, but how close Thomas Brown gets them to it is going to be fascinating to watch, and you can be sure we'll break it down for you right here on the Locked On Bears podcast. So make sure you hit the subscribe button on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts, because that's going to be the best way to keep up with all of our daily, in-depth Chicago Bears news and analysis. If you want more Bears-Vikings matchup analysis, make sure you listen to yesterday's Crossover Thursday podcast with Luke Braun from Locked On Vikings, where we kind of got the scoop from the Vikings perspective on what the Bears are going to be facing on Sunday. And then come back for Monday's Locked On Bears podcast to recap the win or the loss or whatever happens on Sunday. And you can be sure that either way, we'll give you another opportunity to bear down.